At the Canadian Human Rights Commission, our mandate is to protect and promote human rights and to advance equality and inclusion in Canada. Led by the Chief Commissioner, the Commission works for the people of Canada and operates independently from the government. We promote human rights by raising awareness, conducting research, advising Parliament, providing expert advice to policymakers, engaging with the public and the international human rights community, and speaking out on matters of national importance. We protect human rights by administering the Canadian Human Rights Act, which protects people in Canada from discrimination when employed by or receiving services from the federal government, First Nation governments, or private companies that are regulated by the federal government, such as banks, broadcasters, and telecommunications companies and trucking companies. Discrimination is an action or a decision that treats a person or a group unfairly for reasons such as their race, age, or disability. The Canadian Human Rights Act protects against discrimination based on these reasons, also called grounds. Employers and service providers have an obligation to adjust rules, policies, or practices so that employees or clients can fully participate. This is called the duty to accommodate. Employers have a duty to accommodate an employee's needs when they are based on any of the grounds listed in the Act. Because the needs of each individual are different, accommodation requires an individualized approach. For example, asking all job applicants to pass a written test may be unfair to a person with a visual disability. The duty to accommodate may require that an alternative arrangement is made to ensure that a person or group can fully participate. There is a reasonable limit to how far an employer or service provider has to go to accommodate a person's needs. Sometimes accommodation is not possible because it would cost too much or create health or safety risks. This is known as undue hardship. An employer or service provider must provide sufficient evidence to claim undue hardship as the reason why certain policies or practices need to stay in place, even though they may have a negative effect on an employee or a client. Each year, the Canadian Human Rights Commission helps thousands of people find the most efficient way to address their human rights concerns or find information about their rights. If someone feels they've been treated unfairly for reasons such as race, disability, sex, or other prohibited grounds of discrimination, they can come to the Commission. In many cases, the Commission helps people resolve their issue quickly and informally, or helps them find the appropriate process to resolve their issue. Only a fraction of the thousands of people who contact the Commission end up needing to file a discrimination complaint. The first step of the complaints process is determining whether the person has a basis for a human rights complaint, and if so, is the Commission the right organization to help them? Sometimes the person's concern is best addressed by provincial or territorial human rights commissions, or other organizations that have been given the authority to resolve complaints. Mediation is one of the fastest and easiest ways to resolve a complaint. The Commission works with both the complainant and respondent to resolve the issue. The process is voluntary and confidential. The Commission's impartial mediators meet with parties from across the country, bringing them together to come up with their own solution. When a complaint cannot be settled, or when the Commission decides that it warrants further examination, the complaint may be referred to the Canadian Human Rights Tribunal for a decision. The Canadian Human Rights Tribunal is an entirely separate organization that makes decisions about discrimination. It evaluates the evidence and arguments from both sides, and then determines whether discrimination has taken place and orders remedies. When a discrimination case is sent to the tribunal, the Commission attends mediation if the other parties are also willing, and participates in case management procedures. In addition, when a case has the potential to affect the rights of many people in Canada or to define or clarify human rights law, the Commission's legal team participates in the hearings so as to represent the public interest. In rare circumstances, a case may be judicially reviewed, making its way through the court system all the way to the Supreme Court of Canada. In 2019, the Commission added several new responsibilities under 3 new laws: the Pay Equity Act, the Accessible Canada Act, and the National Housing Strategy Act. This included the addition of 2 new commissioners, the Pay Equity Commissioner and the Accessibility Commissioner, along with the Federal Housing Advocate, all of whom are now part of the Commission. The Pay Equity Commissioner's mandate is to promote women's equality by ensuring that federal, public, and private sector organizations value work done by women in the same way they value work done by men. The Accessibility Commissioner spearheads compliance and enforcement activities under the Accessible Canada Act. The Commissioner also supports federally regulated employers as they take a proactive approach to removing barriers to accessibility within their organizations. The Federal Housing Advocate monitors how well Canada is meeting the goals set out in the National Housing Strategy and promotes implementation of the right to adequate housing across Canada. The Commission also works with federally regulated employers to ensure compliance with the Employment Equity Act. Any organization or business that is regulated by the federal government under this act has a legal obligation to provide equal employment opportunities to 4 designated groups: women, Indigenous peoples, persons with disabilities, and racialized Canadians. Using a horizontal audit process, the Canadian Human Rights Commission audits several organizations at once, looking at a specific theme or issue. For example, we might look at how well Indigenous people are represented within the banking industry, or how well persons with disabilities are represented in the transportation industry. This helps us to get a better understanding of what parts of Canada's workforce are in most need of better representation. If representation is low in a particular sector, employers must implement practices to demonstrate they are doing all they can to achieve equality in the workplace and to fill gaps in representation. Above all, employment equity is a matter of dignity. Everyone deserves an equal opportunity to work and contribute to society. At the same time, employers benefit from a diversified and competent workforce, one that promotes inclusion in the workplace. At the Canadian Human Rights Commission, our vision is an inclusive Canada where everyone is valued and respected.